change, and we're all in the wrong time zone right now. I swear I was ready and I got up nice and early. I was all set, which is a lie. I'm not. So hopefully everything goes smoothly. I know Vern's already betting to see what goes crazy. We're gonna show you, Vern. We are on it this week. I don't want. We're not taking it, man. We're not taking your criticism. We're so excited to have you guys here. It is going to be a great show, a little bit different as always. We try to shake it up a bit, but we're going to have a lot to talk about, and I'm excited to be here to talk about it. As always, let's jump into the news. Always, it's just another crazy week in Washington and America. Now we can't just say Washington anymore. We start off with the continuing resolution. Our friends, the Republicans, well, they're not our friends, introduced a continuing resolution just yesterday. And of course, we're all diving into it to figure out what's in there and what's not. And you'll find there's a lot of weird shit in there, as always. A lot of people don't like spending bills. This spending bill would keep federal agencies open until September 30th, pushing ahead with a go-to-loan strategy for the Republicans that seems certain to cause, some confrontation with Democrats, even though they're split on this. It's a 99-page bill that would provide a slight boost to defense programs while trimming a lot of non-defense programs already below 2024 levels, which is unusual for a CR because the whole point of a CR is to keep going. But they are trying to do that. Democrats have already said those trims and cuts are a no-go, but we'll see what happens. Now, Congress must act by Friday to avoid a partial government shutdown. Once again, we're on the brink of a shutdown. Speaker Mike Johnson, of course, said he's teeing up the bill for a vote on Tuesday, despite the lack of buy-in from Democrats. He's essentially daring them to vote against it and risk a shutdown. If you guys know the history, Dems never like shutdowns. They've never voted for shutdowns, which is kind of a weird moment we're in. The Democrats have bailed out the Republicans consistently for years now, so we'll see if they do this time. Normally when it comes to keeping the government fully open, that's the Democrats' thing. They don't like to shut things down, but Republicans almost always lack the votes these days to pass spending bills on their own. So, interestingly enough, this time the strategy actually has the backing of Donald Trump, who has shown in the past he's not a big fan of CRs, but he's really trying to keep the Republicans in line. He actually praised, of course, Truth Social. The only way Donald Trump talks is on his social media network. He already praised the bill, saying he wants the Republicans to have to remain united with no dissent. He wants to fight for another day when the timing is right. So he's telling them to kick the can down the road. Now, why? Obviously, because they've got some stuff in there. House leadership staff outlined the contours of the measure. It says it will allow about 892.5 billion in defense spending, 708 billion in non-defense spending. Actually, that defense spending is slightly above the prior year's level, but the non-defense spending will be about 13 billion below. Now, Democrat leadership both chambers stress that Republicans have the majority responsible for funding the government. They've said any legislation should have both parties. They've always believed the solution is bipartisanship. Yeah, the Republicans can only lose about one vote right now with the number of people they have, the slim majority they have. They don't have a lot of wiggle room on this one. They're probably going to need some Democrats. Some Democrats are saying they won't do it. John Fetterman has already come out on the Senate side saying that he's against a shutdown period. He's, of course, running a very independent streak these days. But Fetterman's already signaling he will vote for it on the Senate side. On the House side, there are a couple of Democrats that said they're not real comfortable with allowing the government to shut down. I guess we'll see. However, there's at least 22 programs that were approved last year, but have now been designated for $0 in this continuing resolution. Shockingly, our understanding is that includes the Toxic Exposure Fund that's under the PACT Act. Although the Republicans are claiming they're increasing funding for VA elsewhere, the Toxic Exposure Fund is a pretty big fund of money to the tune of $23 billion. So we'll have to see how that shakes out. Equally troublesome, the legislation does nothing to protect Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. It doesn't talk about that, and is exposing American people to further pain, according to the Democrats. Now, either way, as we mentioned, Johnson's got till Friday to pull this off. We'll see how the bill goes on Tuesday for the vote, but that's where we are. We'll be keeping an eye on it. Don't be fooled by the two sides telling you lies. Look for yourself. But these bills are 99 pages long, which is actually small for the House, but we'll see more. Now, the other story, of course, is it really does appear this week for the first time Elon Musk might be wearing out his welcome for the first time. He held court in the Oval Office, of course, in his T-shirt and blazer last week with his kid. The other day, if you remember that weird press conference that the president held where he sat there fiddling his thumbs. But 7 weeks in the Trump administration, Musk is not, is kind of upended the government. And his presence in Washington has also swiftly become an unpredictable factor that's helping reshape the country. His slash and burn techniques it's very showy, but it's really starting to hurt folks. And interestingly enough, he was actually called a liar by members of Donald Trump's cabinet in a fiery White House showdown. Two outlets were reporting that the New York Times reported and the Telegraph reported that they had a meeting Thursday that got ugly fast. And for the first time, cabinet members really started going after Musk in front of Trump. Specifically, Sean Duffy, who runs the Department of Transportation, was really enraged by Musk's attempt to call all the air traffic controllers. He says, Duffy apparently yelled at him, saying, "Look, I'm dealing with airplane crashes, and your people are trying to fire air traffic controllers." And then Musk, being Musk, pushed back, saying that wasn't true. And Duffy literally spread a spreadsheet across the table to Trump, alleging, "No, here it is. Here's your people telling us to cut people." And then Musk kind of sidetracked, saying, "Well, you've got people in those towers who are hired under DEI." Which apparently Trump answered, "Yeah, you need to go to MIT and hire those people. We need geniuses." Because anybody who went to MIT for a degree is definitely going to go into being an air traffic controller afterwards. But that's what it's interesting only because there was finally a fight, and we're even hearing that Doug Collins, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, who's actually been very public supporting the cuts in his department and the rolling back some of the money and firing people, he is actually apparently in that meeting told Musk that Musk's cuts have actually caused them to have to cancel operations in some of the hospitals. Now, we know this probably because when they cut a bunch of contracts, if you remember last week, they proudly announced they were cutting $2 billion in contracts for VA. Those contracts ended up including the cleaning and maintenance of medical equipment in hospitals. So there's a really good chance that since they canceled those, even for a few days, it was enough to cause hospitals to have to cancel operations on veterans. Not a good look, okay, for anybody, especially since many of us are all over the VA cuts. Because let's face it, folks, veterans talk, okay, and we're hearing all of it, all right? We're getting all the feedback. I can tell you, not a day goes by I don't get blown up on my phone by veterans who work for the government and others letting me know exactly what's going on. I joke all the time that I'm probably getting stuff before Doug Collins gets it as the head of the VA. As it turns out, Trump had called this meeting, by the way, to get the backing of his cabinet members. And when Duffy and Collins called Musk a liar to his face, the president actually heard it for once. And that's on top of what we're hearing that Marco Rubio is really pissed off. Not that you'd know, but Marco Rubio apparently is pissed, and he's been pissed ever since they cut USAID, really without his permission. And he was always a fan of USAID previously. So again, there's finally some pushback within the administration, at least, to Musk. And Trump came out of that meeting saying that he would like to see more of a, quote, scalpel approach than an axe approach as we've had. So is there hope? I don't know. We're all looking for green shoots, if you will, to see somebody stopping this outrageous behavior. At the same time, we get stories where they're talking about that these fools got access to Social Security data that should not be accessed. We also saw a story that HHS has allowed Doge members to get into the child support payments database, which exposes a metric ton of data about Americans that for no reason should be exposed to anybody outside the government who's monitoring that stuff. So we're seeing a lot of those kind of things. However, perhaps there's a realization growing finally that this debacle is going to destroy the government, because it's really not about efficiency, which we're going to talk about. Now, finally, I want to talk a little bit about veterans. You guys know I'm a veteran. Veterans are my passion. We are seeing, one of the frustrations many of us have seen who are veterans is for years now, starting about 2006, I'll give you a little history. Back in 2006, we had a huge veteran unemployment problem. It was the first realization, 06, 08, and then 10, then 2010, 2011, that we had a huge problem with veteran unemployment. The recent veterans coming back or getting out of the military during the global war on terror, we had double the number of civilian unemployment among veterans, especially young veterans. We had a spiking homelessness problem as veterans sought jobs, were unemployed, were struggling with PTSD. VA at that time under Bush was not handling it at all. Let's be very honest, they were not dealing with the crisis they had created and the number of issues we're having. It's simple fact, guys. You have an all-volunteer force doing multiple tours of combat. There's going to be challenges, both health, physically, and mentally, that at that time the Bush administration was completely unprepared for. So, having said that, a big effort was kicked in when Mr. Obama took office. When President Obama took office, Mrs. Obama and Dr. Biden at the time started what's called Joining Forces. At that time, we already had organizations like the Chamber of Commerce launching Hiring Heroes, and a big part of that effort was to get federal jobs for veterans. And roughly 6,000 veterans have been laid off in recent weeks by the Doge cuts. according to federal data compiled by the Democrats. A spokesman for the Senate VA Affairs said the numbers probably understated amid ongoing cuts at Social Security Administration, General Service Administration, and other agencies. Veterans Affairs, where military veterans make up about 26% of the workforce, just announced this week they want to cut 83,000 jobs. Doug Collins says they want to get it down to 2019 manning levels. Again, veterans make up about 30% of the federal workforce, serving in every department. Again, because of that outrageous veteran unemployment program we had, federal work was a great place to put them, and that's where they are. So these cuts are targeting, probationary employees, but they're casting a shadow over everything, right? Because a probationary employee, contrary to what they're telling you, doesn't necessarily mean a new hire. Now, that is a new hire. That is the next generation of civil servants. But it's also people who've been promoted who are very good at their jobs. I had a young woman on my show the other day who recently got promoted and was fired because she was probationary, even though she'd been excelling so much. The letter to her said that she was being fired because she wasn't performing the standard, which of course was a lie. So these secure jobs that have been helping veteran unemployment stay below the national average for 10, 15 years are now being undermined in this effort to cut large swaths of our government. So it is a way for these veterans to serve their country. So it is just getting worse by the day. But last week, a federal judge in San Francisco ordered the Office of Personnel Management, it serves the Human Resources Department, but they said they rescind the directive to fire probationary employees inside more than 24 agencies, which included DOD, Park Service, and BLM. After that ruling, the Trump administration said the fires will be up to the agencies themselves now. So one of the challenges that the people have been mounting for you guys that don't understand is that OPM itself has been one doing these. That's the Doge folks, really, have been sending these memos out. And that's not actually how our government is structured, right? OPM, while they are the personnel management agency of the government, each agency by law manages their own employees. That's actually the way that our government is structured. So the idea of OPM itself being the one sending out letters, sending out emails or your 5 bullets, that actually goes against federal law. And so what the judge upheld was saying, hey, OPM can't fire these people, agencies. So of course they've switched their tactic, which is, hey, agency, again, that's where you get Doug Collins announcing our agency is going to fire 83,000 people. But look, we're hearing dozens of stories, as I mentioned at the top of this conversation, about how, I honestly, my phone breaks up every single day with dozens of people reaching out to me. And it's not just veterans, but everyone in federal service is terrified of their futures right now. Imagine you moved across the country. I have a good friend who just moved to San Francisco, bought a house, and works for the Bureau of Land Management. They're scared to death they're going to lose their job. And then what are they going to do? They've moved all the way to California and they have nothing. They're veterans, as a matter of fact. Again and again, we're hearing the same stories over and over that these just outrageous cuts are hurting people's lives. But the big lie, and I'm going to talk to our guest about it, the big lie is that this is about government efficiency. And that's not true. And we'll talk about that. So that's the news this week. So the big news this week, as you can see, it's all just happy news as always. But nonetheless, it gives us a lot to talk about and think about as we go into the next week. The fact is, we are finally seeing some pushback. Those last 2 stories, federal judges are pushing back. We're seeing Trump himself push back a little bit. We see cabinet secretaries actually getting frustrated being nothing but Instagram models. So hopefully that means we'll start seeing a slowdown of this insanity. If not, we're going to hold their feet to the fire. So that's why I wanted to use my next guest. Billy Ray is a screenwriter and film director. He began writing for television and movies in 1994 with Color of the Night. He's written numerous films that including the first Hunger Games film, Richard Jewell, and of course, one of my favorites, Captain Phillips, which he earned an Oscar nomination for that. And he recently wrote The Comey Rule about James Comey. He's got a lot to talk about. Billy has been a great friend to me and a lot of my candidates who run for office. He's active. Let's welcome Billy Ray to the show. Billy, good to see you, brother. How are you?
It's a privilege to be on. How are you?
Good, man. Sorry to get you up so early out west on daylight saving day.
It's okay. Democracy never sleeps.
That's right. And neither do I, apparently. So it works out perfect for everybody. Welcome to the show. We got a great crowd building our usual groups. Good to see you guys. Billy, I kind of ended there, on this idea of the Republican framing of these arguments as efficiency, right? And I think you and I were talking a little bit before the show about part of my frustration is how often Democrats will open a conversation saying, oh, we believe in government being more efficient, but X. It's like, and my problem is we're following the Republican messaging there, right? We're playing defense instead of offense, aren't we?
Sure, we are, and as Democrats, there's that saying that when it comes to messaging, Democrats could screw up a peanut butter sandwich. Um, Here's the issue for me. We just dropped $6.7 billion on an election cycle, and
Yeah.
if you stopped any American in the middle of the street and says, "What does the Democratic Party stand for?" He can't tell you. That's a problem. If you pushed him, he'd say, "Well, I know you hate Trump, and I think you're for open borders, abortion, and trans people." Um, that's hardly the new frontier.
Right.
It's not a great brand for us. So I believe that what we need to do is rebrand, not rebrand, but redefine what it means to be a Democrat today,
Yeah.
so that people have a party to come back to. There were 15 million Americans who had voted for Biden who did not vote for Vice President Harris. 15 million. And as anybody who's ever run a business can tell you, that getting customers is hard and losing customers is unforgivable. Um, we have to get those customers back, and messaging is going to be critical.
Yeah, I agree. Now, we woke up today. I woke up today. I saw a prominent Democratic voice saying, any minute you spend, attacking Democrats or criticizing Democrats is wrong. I think you and I see that differently, right?
Very
I
much
mean,
so. Look, here's the basic idea. Okay, the basic idea is that if you boil it down to psychological states, people see the Republicans as the dad party that says no and takes a hard line on things, and people see
yeah,
Democrats as the mom party that nurtures everybody and makes sure that everybody feels okay. I realize that's a radical oversimplification, but that's how that is how the electorate
yeah,
sees it. Okay, what we must now do, if we're going to be worthy of leadership, is we have to take hard lines with ourselves. We have to approach what happened on November 5th with genuine humility. We lost to a guy who has 91 indictments and 2 impeachments. We lost to a guy who is older than 85% of the people who voted for him. If that doesn't wake us up to the fact that we are telling the wrong story or telling no story at all, then we're not worthy of leadership. We have to start critically self-assessing during this year, this off election year,
yeah.
so that by the time 26 rolls around, we are able to say to the country, we learned from November of 24, and we're a different party now. We're going to approach things in a different way. I think they will come back, because right now, if you look at the numbers that are already emerging, 28%, Trump's approval rating with independent voters has already fallen to 28%.
Right.
69% of independent voters say they are falling behind on their bills. 63% of Republicans say they are falling behind on their bills. There is a massive swath of voters out there that felt squishy on Kamala and went with Trump that are already regretting that decision. If we give them a safe landing pad to come back to, they will come back. But that's on us. We have to go do that now, and we have to achieve that by talking in a different way.
And I say a lot that there seems to be a very big gap between what is. I live in Missouri. I live way out in St. Louis, Missouri. I truly live in flyover country, and I'm proud of that. And there does seem to be a huge gap in the anger and frustration we're seeing amongst average Americans. Not, and I'm not even saying Republicans. There's a lot of angry people right now. You don't have to look far to see examples of Republicans saying, "What the hell are we doing? This I really didn't vote for this, and they really didn't." Let's be honest. However, it does seem sometimes up on Capitol Hill, especially, they don't seem to understand that anger. They don't understand the frustration that's being felt. And I think a lot of people are just wanting to see a reflection of their angst and a reflection of their worry in their elected leaders, and they're not getting that right now, are they?
No, they're not. And I would say keep an eye on Montana. Montana is
Okay.
going to be a very strange bellwether here, because what's happening in Montana is about 3 weeks ahead of the rest of the country. And by that, I mean
Yeah.
the impact of these government services. You mentioned vets, and thank you for your service. Montana has the highest population of vets of any state in the union. 9% of Montana is vets.
Right.
And what they are feeling is they just closed down a Social Security office in Kalispell, Montana. They're now about to close down a Social Security office in Missoula, Montana. They have
Jesus.
wiped out the Forestry Service, which is a huge thing in Montana.
Right.
And people, for the first time, are saying what you just said. What the hell? But again, I come back to, what can Democrats do differently? What can we do actively? Here's an example of what I'm talking about. 68% of this country is Christian. Okay, I am not, by the way, but 68% of this country is Christian. 88% of the homes in this country have a Bible. The average has four. In the Democratic platform in 2024, there were mentions of Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, and Islam. Do you know how many mentions of Christianity there were in that platform? Zero. In what business can you say to 68% of your potential customers, nope, we're not thinking about you? That's insane. That is political suicide. We have to welcome people of faith back to the party in the same way. Sorry, far left, you are a part of my party, but you are not the sum of my party, and you cannot be the face of my party because it's bad politics. We have to welcome gun owners back into our party. Just because you own a gun does not make you a school shooter. And we have to start talking in a different way because we are saying to vast segments of the electorate, we're not for you. We think you're the problem. And that part of the electorate then said, okay, FO, we're going to go vote for Donald Trump, even though we know he's vile and childish, because he doesn't vilify us. And that is the math that we are trying to counter. And we have a year to do it while this guy destroys the American government and puts the Constitution through a shredder. He's going to do his part. He's going to screw it up horrendously. He's going to overplay his hand. He's going to overreach. And the fact is, these are not great government. These are not civil servants that we're dealing with. They're going to mess it up. They're doing it already. They're setting the table for us. All we have to do is prepare a new kind of Democratic Party so that people feel safe to come back to us and they trust us. We do that by showing real humility with ourselves.
That's a great starting point, and I think you're absolutely right in a lot of ways. We have to have. We were always the tent, the big tent, and we've forgotten a big part of what goes in that tent. I mean, sometimes in your urgency to welcome more people, you forget that people are already there, and I do think that reflects a lot. But I also see, again, as I mentioned earlier about this the fight has to happen now. I mean, I think a lot of Americans, Carville said we should roll over. I don't think you're the rollover kind of guy, are you? I certainly am not a
Well,
rollover.
I want to jump on that because
Yeah.
I know Carville and I love Carville, and I don't think he said roll over. What he said was, and I think he's right. Don't scream about every single thing that Trump does because it feeds the narrative that we're just the anti-Trump party. He's 100% right about that.
Right.
We cannot look that Trump is so ubiquitous that he defines our party as well as the Republican Party. The definition of our party is not our opposition to Trump. The definition of our party is not our opposition to Trump. The definition of our party is that we are for Americans and their families. Period.
Right.
That their health, their security, and their well-being is our mission. That has always been true, which
Yep.
means that we have to take seriously their concerns about national security, border security, neighborhood security, paycheck security. These are the things we should be talking about. When Trump does something insane like gutting the State Department, what we should be out there saying is not Trump's an idiot, because that doesn't move the needle in any way. We've been saying it for 9 years and it doesn't work. What we should be saying is, how does that lower the price of eggs? How does this move make it easier for you to afford a home? Okay, he wants to blow out DEI. Okay, he wants to blow out transgender people from the Air Force, even though they've been serving already.
Right.
Okay, he wants to go do that. How does that lower the price of eggs? How does that make it easier for you to afford a home? We should be in the position of public advocacy. We should be going to bat for the American people because the Republican Party just constitutionally cannot and will not do that for us.
I, it's exactly, and that going to bat matters on a regular basis. I think part of my frustration, and I'm being honest, is I don't like the idea. And like Mr. Jeffries went up and said, hey, a good pitcher, a good batter waits the right pitch. What I think a lot of here, and what I worry too, to be honest with you, is when you say that when you're waiting for the right pitch, it also means you're going to let three balls go by, perhaps two strikes go by before you finally pick a swing. I think a lot of people, even Republicans, heard, well, if we're careful about what we throw their way, we can get things by them. I think this has been my frustration, honestly, Billy, with the way that, for example, the way the VA laid people off. They did 1,000 one week, they waited a week, they laid 1,400 off one week, and they're daring us to wait for the pitch. Does that make sense? I think, don't you think there's also a danger that we wait so long for the right pitch that we miss some major ones and we end up being down 9 runs before we ever figure out that we're losing?
I hear you, and I think we can swing at a lot of things.
Hmm.
The question is, what do we say about them? In
There
other
you
words,
there you
3 weeks after we got our asses kicked on November 5th, and don't let anybody tell you that it was close. Don't
No.
let anyone tell you, hey, if 7,000 votes went the other way, we'd have the House right now. I guess mathematically that's true, but if we had lost 7,000 more votes, we'd be in double digit deficits in the House as well. So the reality is we lost the House. We're in trouble in the Senate, of course, and we lost the presidential, and we lost all 7 swing states. So no, it was not close. We got our asses kicked. But 3 weeks after that, Democrats were still insisting in the next federal budget that you can't say the word criminals, you have to say justice involved individuals. And you can't say unhoused. You can't say homeless, you have to say unhoused. This is insane. This,
Right.
are you telling me that the homeless guy who lives 3 blocks away from me is going to wake up one day and say, when they called me homeless, I really felt shitty about myself. But now that they're calling
Right.
me unhoused, I'm gonna take a shower and get a job.
Right.
It's just ludicrous that we are
Right.
still telling Americans how to talk. Americans don't want to be told how to talk. That takes away their freedom. That takes away their agency. It takes away their dignity and their self-respect. No, they don't want to be lectured. They don't want to be scolded. And we have learned nothing if we're still doing that. So the key thing about what pitches we swing at is you don't fall into the traps. Okay, if Trump wants to say that boys who become girls can't compete in girls athletics in high school, let that one go. You cannot help transgender people by losing elections. And if you keep talking about this, you're going to keep losing elections. What you've got to say when he decides to do that, by the way, his popularity rating on that particular issue is 79%, which means, yeah, you let that pitch go. But what you should say is, how does that lower the price of eggs? How does that make it easier for people who afford a home? How does that lower the price of gasoline? Isn't that what we should be talking about? Isn't that what concerns Americans? Rather than a bill passing through the United States Congress that affects 10 people in this entire country. Why are we doing this? We should be focusing on the cost of living. And as Democrats, that's what we're thinking about right now. We're out
Well,
there advocating for people.
yeah, and you're a screenwriter. You're a professional screenwriter. I've seen your writing. You've helped me shape messaging on some campaigns I've been on. Right. You know how to talk to people. You know, and I've seen it. I mean, as you think about this, if you had a chance to sit down with some of these folks, and say, hey, here's how I believe the message should be. Here's what you should be saying. What would that look like to you?
Well, I do. I mean, I help about
You have those
80,
conversations now.
80
Yeah.
sitting members of the House and Senate regularly with messaging, and they're listening. They're listening. They get it. They understand that when they jump at that obvious bait, that it always hurts our core message. Our core message is, again, we are here to advocate for Americans and their families. We are here to defend the Constitution. We're here to take care of veterans. As you just rightly said, 30% of federal workers are veterans. So rather than screaming about the destruction of departments in a very sort of vague way, we should be saying this is a nation that is committed to caring for its veterans. And when you cut veterans out of the workforce, you are essentially violating the sacred code between a country and its fighting men and women. Period.
Yep.
Period. You can take any one of these governmental cuts and see it through the prism of taking jobs away from veterans, and it will become wildly unpopular.
Yeah.
And also, let's remember that government services haven't been interrupted in a way that's being felt immediately yet, except in Montana.
Yeah.
Wait another month or 2 months
Yeah.
when Social Security checks are coming in late or not coming in at all, when offices are closed, when people feel like they don't have access to fundamental things from the United States government. They'll know what to do. We just have to give them a landing pad to jump to.
That's perfect. And I couldn't agree more. I guess finally, one of the things that's always frustrated me is, again, I think we touched on it briefly at the beginning, but I want to go back to it, which is if you think about the transgender issue you mentioned earlier, DEI, CRT. I don't know if you saw where they've ordered DOD to go through all of their social media forever to identify things, and it's come out as ridiculous as to say gay. That they actually tagged a photo of the Enola Gay, which they're denying they're going to delete, but they did tag it as professional, social media people, the professional public affairs people are going through in this hunt for DEI. I do feel like, do you feel like Democrats cede the ground too much in that conversation? Because it wasn't an issue, right? Right. That until, for example, Christopher Rufo decided CRT was an issue, right? And then DEI became an issue. And now any mention of a black American or a minority or a woman's success is being attacked to the point where they're actually destroying history. I mean, truly erasing it. I mean, you must find it ironic that the accusation of getting rid of those statues was that we were erasing history, but yet here we are literally erasing history, aren't we?
Of course, we're erasing history, but what we need to do in this moment, by the way, can you cut the audio from your, thank you. What we need to do in this moment, again, if they want to cut out the word Enola Gay, okay,
Yeah.
what we need to say is, how does this lower the price of eggs? How does this make it easier for you to afford a home? Again, keep talking, keep advocating for for the American voter.
Yeah. Keep fighting for that part. I mean, it does sound like what I say. So what else? I mean, what else been on your mind lately? What are you attacking these days? I mean, what do you sit there, you wake up every day. I mean, you must think, okay, what can we do different? And then I'll let you go because I know you got things to do on a Sunday.
Um, what I think about every day is, how can my party speak from a place of genuine humility? I know I keep using that word, but
Yeah.
genuine humility, to say to the American public, we know we have to do things differently. I remember so clearly in 1994 when the contract with America gave the Republicans the House for the first time in 44 years,
Wow.
or when Obama's first midterm election in 2010, when we got destroyed. In those two cases, the President of the United States came to the American people and said, I hear you, I get it, we'll do things differently.
Yeah.
True humility. And both went on to win re-election 2 years later in giant fashion.
Yeah.
Okay. The Democratic Party needs its leadership to step forward and say exactly that. We got beat in November. We got beat with voting groups that we thought were ours forever. And we were wrong about that. We hear you. We're going to do things differently now. We're going to get back to our core mission, which is, again, Americans and their families. And if we do that, the American people will say, oh, okay, Democrats learned their lesson. I always wanted to be a Democrat anyway. I only jumped away from them because they got so fringy and
Yeah.
insane, and they started telling me how to talk. If they'll stop doing that, I'll come back. Because
Okay.
remember, Americans agree with us on everything. When they put minimum wage on the ballot in Florida, it got 60%. In Arkansas, it got 62. In Missouri, it got 67. This is a core Democratic idea that was hugely popular in states where we always get our asses kicked. Why? They agree with us on abortion. They don't want government mandated pregnancy. They find that really creepy. They agree with us on guns. If we stop saying universal background checks, which everybody hates, and start saying violent history checks, 95% of the country comes with us. They agree with us on Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. They agree with us on lowering the cost of prescription drugs. And wait till insulin becomes more expensive again.
Yeah.
People will know what to do. The only reason they don't come with us is because we insist that they celebrate things that they have just learned how to tolerate. And that's not the same thing. We keep telling them, you got to talk like us, or we're going to cancel you because you're a knuckle dragger. And that makes them run screaming into the arms of the nearest Republican. Go talk to any American who experienced a close House race. Here's what they'll tell you: the Republican was an asshole, the Democrat was an elitist, and the asshole never told me how to talk. The asshole never made me feel dumb. It's that simple. If we stop scolding and lecturing and telling America how to talk, they will realize, oh, I kind of agree with these guys. And then we
Yep.
get them.
Yep. I will let you go, sir. I think that's it. And, and the great thing about you and me, Billy, I don't always agree, but you're right. I mean, we do have to speak differently. We have to have a different conversation on America, clearly. And I think it, and I see that folks in the comments, we do have to have an honest conversation with ourselves and the Democrats about where we stand. I mean, there was just that New York Times article that came out the other day saying that there's four different like themes running in Congress, for example, how to deal with these, from the pragmatic to, I think we should work together to the nuance. And that'll be my last point I wanted to make before I bring the panel in, because the panel's gathering now, is I was going to bring up the end, but I want to ask your opinion too. Is like, it also feels like the time of nuance is dead, right? Like you saw the vote against Al Green, right? 10 Democrats did vote for censure, right? And I understand their point. They're all saying, well, and they've been guests. Ami Bera, Marcy Kaptur have been on this show. And I think their point was, well, we always have to uphold the standards, even though Marjorie Taylor Greene wasn't held to that standard. It does feel like, and this will be the last thing we talk about, is the age of nuance might be dead right now, right? Like people don't get nuance, do they? I mean, it is very black and white at this moment, because it does feel like we're in a fight for the democracy itself. What's your take on that? And then I'll let you run.
We have to talk in bumper stickers,
Yep.
period. That's it.
Yep.
And so in this case, I disagree with you on that
Okay.
censure. Okay. My feeling is that the only defensible position is we believe in truth. That's it. We're not going to caveat everything to death. We believe in truth. The Constitution is sacred. Period. Constitution is sacred. Freedom is the most important virtue that we have. If you poll Americans on what virtues mean the most to them, freedom is number one, and it's not close. Freedom outpolls justice in America by 21 points. And if you want to know what America thinks of equality, it's 10x down from justice. Americans don't care. They want their freedom, okay? And freedom is linked with democracy, and democracy is everything. So we need to be talking about those big, bold things. But right now, with the government spiraling out of control as it is, everything comes down to whatever Trump does, whatever petty, insane thing he does, we need to be seeing it through the lens of, how does this impact the American consumer, the American voter? So if he wants to kill DEI, our answer is, how does that lower the price of eggs? How does that make it more affordable for you to get a home? That's it. If we're talking that way, if we're on the kitchen table, then Americans will come with us.
There you go. All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Yeah,
Privilege.
exactly. And that's what we need, right? And I do think too many people stay at home, and we're going to have to speak to those folks very quickly. So, man, Billy, thank you so much for joining us on Daylight Savings Day, and your insight is always valuable. I really appreciate you, brother. And I look forward to having you back again soon.
Anytime. It's a
All
privilege.
right. Well,
I'll get up
much the
early for
same,
you,
because
Fred.
we bring people back, brother. Talk to you soon. Thank you, sir.
Talk soon. Bye.
Oh man, I love these conversations. And I don't always agree. That's the thing. That's the great thing about having conversations with Billy and everybody else, is we're going to have these conversations to understand where we stand and where we don't. And look, we're not all agree, but we do agree. We've got to fight. We've got to fight better. We've got to fight cleaner. We've got to fight our way, but we got to fight, and we're going to have to make that case. I want to switch gears. As you know, we always have the panel every week. Sometimes the panel is comedians. Sometimes the panel is actors. Sometimes the panel is journalists. Sometimes the panel is just my friends. This week, it's a very important month, and I bring it up because it's been very important to my life over the years as a veteran, as just an American. I played hockey as a youth, got my head cracked a few times. I literally fell down the steps of my house in October, running down to my studio, and gave myself a concussion. March is actually Brain Injury Awareness Month. And so I had the opportunity, thank you very much, to have great people come on and join us and talk about those issues, talk about their lives, talk about what's going on in the world, and those are special people. We've got Mark McEwen, who's a longtime journalist, health advocate, and a stroke survivor. You know Mark, he spent over 15 years on CBS, a variety of high-profile positions, ABC, the CBS This Morning for 3 years. He's best known as the weatherman, entertainment reporter for the early show. Mark was at the top of his game when he suffered a stroke in 2005, and his journey to recovery from that has been a big part of his life, becoming a stroke survivor. And I'm also joined by Kevin Pearce, who, if you don't know Kevin Pearce, you should. Extraordinary, talented athlete, has had devastating setbacks and a profound transformation through that. He was the pinnacle of professional snowboarding, where he was getting ready for the Olympics, and we took an unexpected turn with a very traumatic brain injury, which I'm sure he'll tell us about. And since then, he's an advocate for brain injury awareness, an advocate for recovery, and thriving in difficulty. So let's go ahead and welcome the panel. This is going to be a good one.
How are you? Welcome from Orlando.
Mark, Florida guy.
Yeah.
This is international. Kevin, where are you hanging your hat? I actually don't know where you're hanging out.
What's up, boys? I am in Florida.
Okay, two Florida people. That's a long way from the mountains, but that's probably a good call. I do see you hang out with your surfboard all the time, so I guess that makes sense.
Yeah,
Kevin, my middle name is Kevin.
No way.
How about that?
Dude, how about that? I just moved to New Smyrna Beach.
Oh,
nice.
I know where that is.
Yeah, you guys all know Kelly Slater. Kelly Slater told me about this town.
Well, there you go.
And this town is so groovy. Holy cow.
Kevin, one thing you'll find out, it's fun watching winter on TV.
Oh, come on. Both y'all need to. I'm in St. Louis. We had, St. Louis this year had more snow than Minneapolis, and Chicago. So I don't want to hear your Florida crap right now. Right? So, let's do a panel. So welcome, gentlemen. You've never been on the show before. You came in clean. Mark, you've had quite a journey from the morning news to where you are today. And for those who aren't familiar with your story past the news, how'd you get where you are today, brother? I know it's been a bumpy one, huh?
Okay, Kevin, here we go. Frederick, here we go.
Here we go.
I had a stroke. I had my stroke on a plane, and when I landed, the sky cap, I had the wherewithal to get a sky cap. I stumbled off the plane. They thought I'd been drinking. I had my balance is still suspect, but the sky cap wheeled me through the airport and left me curbside by myself. I was dying. And I tried to get my wife on the phone, and finally I said, help me, not good. And she about lost her mind. Hand the phone to someone to call 911. A guy came out of baggage claim to smoke a cigarette. We both know that's not good. And he was heavy. And he said, do you want me to take that phone? I barely remember saying yes. He did talk to my wife, called an ambulance, went back into baggage claim. I wouldn't know him now if he walked into the room. And that's why I believe in angels, because that guy saved my life. And so off I went. I remember the nurse at the ER said, when did you first realize you were having a stroke? I said, a couple of days ago. And she just went. The thing is, you have a time limit to get clot-busting drugs that can mitigate the damage of having a stroke, and I passed that. And so off I went. Coma, intensive care, hospital for a month, rehab for a year, and I had to learn to walk and talk and blah, 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 and here I am.
Wow, what a journey! And of course, Kevin, you had a bumpy ride. It's a funny connection. As I was getting ready for the show, when I was with the Lincoln Project, my politics game 4 years ago, we actually used the Olympic Skiing Center at Park City as our initial headquarters, which of course was the site where your life took a dramatic change, didn't it?
Yeah, for sure. That was, feels like a lifetime ago. And dude, Anne Marie just called me to remind me about this because I never got the email from you, so I had no idea I was coming on. And I'm in the middle of changing my 10-day-old son's poopy diaper.
All right.
And I was like, okay, let's go.
Well done. Well, we're gonna put you on the spot, brother. Get prepared, dude.
And now there's a bit of noise in the background.
That's okay. This is a family show, man.
Kids will
Literally,
do that.
Families are welcome. My fiance's in the chat. We're good, man.
Yeah. Did you ever think you'd be changing diapers?
That's exactly. It's a great. Exactly. It's a great. And you were a kid, right? I mean, Kevin, you were. How old were you when you had your accident?
Yeah, I
Snowboarding.
was, 22.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Wow.
it was 15 years ago. New Year's 2009, 2010, and I was right there, man. I was like at the top of professional snowboarding, giving Sean White a run for his money back there. And like, just like, I was like in the zone of just like winning all the biggest contests. The year before, I was the TTR World Tour champion. And
Nice.
my parents had booked plane tickets to the Olympics. That's how sure it was, like so certain I was going to go to the Olympics. And like, that was the goal. And then, yeah, my story is pretty crazy because like most people don't know that a week and a half before I took the fall in Park City, which was on film and there's a whole documentary about, a week and a half before in the first Olympic qualifier, I got a concussion. And
Okay.
so I suffered from second concussion syndrome. And when you watch it, the fall isn't that bad. That was my career ending injury and like the end of everything. It was like, as far as like snowboarding and action sports, it's like guys take falls like that and jump up all the time. But my brain was like, the first concussion I got in Copper, Colorado, a week and a half before was very severe. And I was told to be taken out and to stop riding, but I didn't listen to anyone because I was 22 and I wanted to do whatever I wanted to do.
Yeah, you're a man. See, keep circling back to the same thing.
And then it's like, so I guess like for the listeners on here, if you hit your head, you got to rest. You got to take a break because your head, as Dr. Amen, a close friend of mine and someone who I look up to, he speaks about how the brain lies to you and it doesn't give you, whereas if your brain tells you if your bone's broken, but your brain can't always tell you if your brain's broken. So it's like this machine up here that runs our lives. It's like, it's such a funky thing that we deal with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kevin,
I
you've
felt,
come a long way. You've done
yeah.
quite well.
Yeah, man, I'm feeling good. And it's crazy how you intro this show, Fred, talking about Thrive, because we're working on a new documentary right now called Thrive. And
Love
it's
it.
about me and this Australian Aussie Rules football player. And we're like 80% done with it. Well, you can have that if you say hi.
Hi.
Emmy, look, you're live right
The
now,
most
okay?
beautiful guest I've ever had on the show.
Cute.
Hi there.
All right, I gotta keep talking. You go eat those,
love it.
okay? I love
And
you.
Kevin, you do good work.
That's right. Right. I always say that too. You're married up. It's funny because I fell down the steps here, right? And because I was rushing, it was the election, and I bonked my head right in the wall, and I end up in a pile at the bottom of the stairs. I yell out for my fiance. I'm like, and she comes running down. She's like, and I'm in a pile with a laptop on my head and everything else, rolling in pain. And she gets down. I said, okay, well, I gotta do a show. It's like, are you fucking crazy, dude? I'm calling the EO. I'm like, no, it'll be fine. Like you said, your brain lies to you. Plus, men are stupid. I mean, I admit that freely. We are basically dumb creatures. And I'm like, no, the show must go on. And my brain's like, durr. And you're right. I ended up laying on the couch for like 2 weeks, just kind of out of it, because you're right. The bonk on the head is much more than you think it is, and I remember sitting there just kind of zoning out. I couldn't focus. I didn't work for a week, I think.
Wow.
Well, that's a lot, guys. So
all right. Well, let me jump in real quick before we move on. So Dr. Amen does these things called SPECT scans, where he scans your brain, and he scanned my brain. He scanned. This will be tough. He scanned my brain 15 years ago, a couple months after the injury, and then he just scanned it again 15 years later. And check this out. If you can see, on the left, do you see the bumps and how how the bumps have smoothed out? Like, my mom's like, I'm not a doctor. I don't know what that means. It's like, I'm not a doctor either, but I know that bumps are bad.
Seems bad.
And so like that's like living proof right there that the brain heals. Where for so long we didn't think the brain could get better and that you're stuck with the brain you have. But like this is proof that if you do the right things and you take the right steps and you make the right moves, that you can get better.
Yeah, man, I love that for this
But
for this
sorry, you
group.
were just about to jump in and I
No,
interrupted
you're
you.
good. No, this is the panel, man. This is what we do every week. You guys haven't watched, but this is kind of what we do. We just jam with each other for a while and tell some
Frederick,
jokes.
let
But
me say something.
yeah,
Before I had a stroke, what I knew about strokes was nothing. Zip,
yeah,
nothing. I know things that could fill a room, and I go around the country and speak to people and tell them don't give up. And Kevin, you know that, don't give up, because when life knocks you down, there are people who turn around and go home. When life knocks you down, all you have to do is get back up, put your fists up, and fight back. And I, Frederick, I've been to the gym this morning. I eat different, and again, moderation is a good word. If you
yeah.
had told me I could never eat chocolate chip cookies again, I would have eaten every one I could find. I have them, I just don't have them every day. And
Yeah,
so you have to kind of help life help you. And so that's lose weight, don't smoke, exercise and all that. It's good.
yeah,
It
yeah.
works well
And
for you.
Kevin, I see you. I see you out there. You're surfing. You're a motivational speaker, which I get. I'm motivated just talking to you here. You've and I want to talk to you before. You found a whole new direction in life. Pretty damn good direction though, right? I mean, you're going in a different direction. Oh my God, she's so cute. Stop it.
All right, well the panel's for
Stop
now.
it. I'm a grandfather. You're killing me here, man.
The panel's for now because this one can't
That's
stay out
fine.
of it.
It's fine. Wait till we ask her questions about her career.
What we know that kids don't know is the difference between being a kid and being a parent is
Yeah.
night and day, night and
Yeah.
day.
Guys, yesterday we're rolling on the golf cart because golf carts are legal in this town.
Oh, I
And
love it.
we stopped for a second on the road and she looks at me and she goes, "Dad, what's your story?"
All right.
Right.
She knows what's going on.
She's so cute.
But you found I want to throw. We do this thing called panel picks. You guys aren't prepared, and I'll walk you through this because we're gonna drop it on you. But I do want. I may pick them myself. But JJ, throw out the panel picks for our guest here, and we'll talk about some stuff. So this is what we do. If you can see it clearly, it was that. I know Mark, you probably have to look. I think the number one. I'm gonna pick them this time. I usually don't. Oh, we lost Mark for a second. It was, and we'll start with you, Kevin, until Mark comes back. It was. I say it was at that moment. I talk about it was that moment when you realize that this is before the injury. Like you realize you were at the top of your career. Do you ever have a moment like that, sitting at the top of the top of the hill as you get ready? It was that moment you realize. It was in that moment you realize you'd really reached a point in your life. For me, I'll tell you. I'll tee it up for you guys. I was a young cadet at West Point, and I was not loving it. I'm going to tell you guys honestly, I hated it as a matter of fact. And I got the opportunity to go to jungle school in Panama, and I tell the story often. And there's this obstacle course at that old jungle school. It's not there anymore, but this obstacle course, you end up falling into the water, and I end up in this gorgeous, Caribbean water. Overlooking there's a Spanish castle on the hill, right? And this glistening water, and I'm like, oh shit, okay, I get this now. I'm a kid from Missouri, and I'm here in Panama, seeing things I never would dream of. But Kevin, did you ever have a moment like that before the injury? Like, wow, okay, this is where I'm at.
Yeah, so all right, so long story quick.
Okay.
I grew up a huge fan of Shaun White, and
Yeah.
he was this kid that was like so much better than me. Like it was like it's like when you look at like a Michael Jordan to compare it to someone like if you don't snowboard, you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. But like
Yeah.
he was that much better where it was just like a whole nother level. And then we kind of like grew up together and we traveled around the world and he was always so far ahead of me. And then I beat him at this contest
Oh.
called the European Open, and I like landed one of the best half pipe runs I'd ever done in my life, and I was just like
Wow.
in that zone, and I was just like in that flow state of just being able to do whatever came to my mind, and being up above him was like that moment for me of like
Yeah.
that was like something that you could never imagine coming true, and then like being real, like beating
Hmm.
Shaun White, like,
Wow.
and
Yep. That's the moment.
I beat him like 3 times that year. So I think
One, two,
Yeah, eat it.
three.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know your career too, Mark. You were the top of journalism. You're on CBS. I mean, I've seen the pictures of celebrities. Like, was there any one of those where you're like, oh wow, okay, I've made it? I mean, did you have any of
Well,
those moments, Mark?
since he talked about MJ, Michael Jordan, I'll tell my Michael Jordan story.
Well, there
I
you
was,
go. See,
yeah,
see, this is how the
I
panel
was
works,
at
y'all.
this golf tournament. Was best ball. For people who don't know, you have a quartet. All four hit. All four go to the best ball. All four hit from there, and like that. So it accounts for low scores. So we're in a foursome. He's in the foursome in front of us. And as I slow down, I pull up to him and I say, "We're 2 under par. How you doing?" He says, "We're 3 under par, and I hope they're not counting on you to carry the team." I said, "Why you gotta hurt me like that?" He laughs. So at the next par 3, he wiggles his butt, hits it right into the woods. And I say, "And you're jocking me?" we both laugh. On the 18th green, it's packed. It's like the Beatles are there. And he's about to tee off. He turns around and points at me and says, "He's the only guy out here who makes me nervous." And I was like,
There
"This
you
is
go.
good."
I mean, there's whole documentaries about how
So
competitive
that's a
Michael
moment.
Jordan is.
That's a moment.
You know, I love it. All right, bring the panels back up. I'll pick the next one, JJ. You guys are all right, ready. Don't click off, Mark. Just I'll read it. I want to talk about not fun facts. Okay, and what I meant by that one is not fun facts means, and I guess Mark, don't click away. I can tell Mark not to click away anymore. But you're up again, Kevin. But when I talk about not fun facts, like we talk about fun facts, but you went through a hard time. I've seen the pictures of you in the hospital, everything else. I mean, some of the not fun facts of recovering from a TBI. It's not great, is it?
no, it's not, and it's so hard because it's so all encompassing, and it's like it just takes over everything, and it's like
Yeah.
all you think about, it's all you talk about, it's all you deal with. It's like, and it's almost like it's a it's not attractive. It's not like something people want to be around, and it's you lose your friends, you lose your family, people like disappear, and it's like it's such a dirty injury. I've been injured, like I've broken bones, like I've being a snowboarder, I went through it all, and like there's
Yeah.
nothing that comes close to injuring the brain.
Mm.
Whether it be stroke or traumatic brain injury or whatever you might be going through. It's like if you have a brain injury, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you don't have one, it's like you might think or you might be like, "Oh yeah, I get it. I've broken both my legs," but it's like, nah, you don't know.
Yeah, as a veteran, and Mark will go to you next. And Mark, if you missed it, we're talking about not fun facts, which go with your experiences, and we try to make light of it. For me, one of the things, and I had the concussions as an athlete, but I've been fortunate I never got blown up in Iraq. I was just one of the. It was actually a bit of a running joke that if I went on a patrol, nothing ever happened. I mean, literally, we drove back from Samara in northern Iraq with the Special Forces unit in broad daylight because the colonel's like, "I'm testing this, man." I'm like, "Okay," and guess what? Nothing happened. But anyway, we digress. But years ago, I was working in. I work with a wonderful organization, the Home Depot Foundation. And one of the things we did at the Home Depot Foundation was we rehab. Each year they do these projects. They still do it. Do hundreds of projects across the country using their volunteer Home Depot associates and money to fix veterans' homes. And we were in Phoenix, Arizona in the heat of the sun in September because, let's be honest, it's still hotter than hell in September. And our guy we were helping was a veteran with a very severe traumatic brain injuries. He got blown up really bad. And other than that, he was fine. Big guy. He had a wife. He had 2 lovely little toddlers. And we were there in the heat, and he was walking around outside in the heat, visiting with all of our associates. He insisted on giving each of them a hug. We had about 60 people there, right?
Ah.
And normally, you can appreciate this, I'm sure, Kevin, those early days, and even in the earlier years, the sun hurts your eyes. You kind of want to stay in dark rooms. But it was an interesting story. I tell it because the president of the Home Depot Foundation at the time was with me there, and she came to me. She goes, "Fred, I'm worried. I'm worried about is his wife happy with our work?" I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Well, look at her." And she was staring at her husband. And my friend, the Kelly, thought that she wasn't happy with her work. I said, no, no, no. I said, "Kelly, understand something. She's got a toddler at her hip, and she has a toddler running around, and she's looking at her other toddler right now, her husband, who usually doesn't go outdoors and is out in the sun interacting with people." I said, "You have to understand, as the spouse of a TBI, she's taking care of him. She's his caregiver." And as soon as she saw that, it flipped in her head. She's like, "Oh shit, right?" I said, she's watching her kid, and that, you're right. You get abandoned, but you also have those that stand by you. Mark, I know you've seen that. You were at the pinnacle of your career. You were working, and your stroke kind of it takes a whole different direction. I mean, what are the not fun facts of your recovery all these years?
The things that have stayed with me, like I said, my balance. If I turn too fast, I do this. I'm right-handed. My stroke affected my dominant side, my right side. I do everything left-handed. I write left-handed. I shave left-handed. I put my contacts in left-handed. Here's the thing, Frederick. It wasn't like I said one day I'm going to be ambidextrous. No. So here I was. I thought, you know what? Heck with this. I'm going to do this. I'll say this. You have to laugh sometimes, because things, if you don't laugh, you cry. And but always remember, we are still here. There are people who aren't here anymore. And the name of the game, I say, is be here as long as you can. Father Time, undefeated. But Kevin, we're here. We're here. What you'll find out, Kevin, as you get older, I'm 70. Everyone,
What?
yeah, everyone who gets older has had something, whether it be a heart attack or a stroke or a knee replacement or whatever. Everyone has something. Kevin, go to your grocery store and look around. You'll see people that I think shouldn't be doing what they're doing. They're heavy, they're smoking, they all have tattoos that they wish they could get rid of. But yeah, that's part of the deal. Everyone has something.
That's okay. And Kevin, I mean, I know you got to get back to wiping babies' butts. The glamorous life of parenting. It's good
Right.
being a grandparent, because I don't wipe butts anymore. Just
The
admit
old
it.
joke about grandparents is they get the lead.
Exactly. Kevin, thoughts. I mean, I'm gonna let you guys go. Get on with your daylight saving day. I mean, you have thrived. I mean, you were doing really well. You're inspiring. Your story is inspiring. Look at, you got a wonderful family. That's kind of key. What Mark just said, right? You got to keep living, don't you?
You got to keep living, and I'm living my best life. Like I guess for me, I feel like things happen for a reason, and you gotta. You're not always sure. You don't always know why, but it's like crazy stuff happens, and you gotta figure out a way to deal with it. And it's like you just said, it's like it happens to all of us. Like
Yep.
if you're living, you're gonna have something that you have to deal with, and so I guess for me, it's the mindset you take into it and the approach. And for me, a big issue was people telling me I couldn't and
Right.
wouldn't, and that would never happen again. And I was just like, like that would just fire me up and be like, watch me. Like
Yeah.
I need to prove these people wrong. Like that was where I got a lot of my motivation. But what you guys were just talking about is like everyone dealing with something. So another project I'm working on is I'm trying to start a YouTube channel called Hard Reset,
Okay.
and um, I'm so excited about Hard Reset. Right up the block from me, 5 houses up. He's like 65 or 70. He got struck by lightning 5 years ago, walking in from the beach surfing. Yeah, and he died, and his heart stopped. And now he's back. Frank, we call him Lightning. We call him Lightning Frank.
Oh, yeah.
Lightning Frank is like surfing competitively again, and
Wow.
he can't see out of one of his eyes. He tripped into my house, but like, dude, like that's his hard reset. Like,
Yep.
He
I love
tripped
it.
into your house. He was allowed to do that. Kevin, let me ask you a question. Do you still do what you did before the injury?
oh my gosh! So like this documentary last winter, we got to go up to this. We got to go on this operation called CMH, and CMH is like one of the biggest heli operations in the world. They have like 15 locations around the globe, and we went to one up in Canada. And we were in this like it's called the Monashee Mountain Range. We were in the Monashee Lodge, and it's like a $20 million lodge that like 8 of us had. And the heli just parks out front, and we got the most insane footage. We had like the best drone pilot in the country, like, and it was just like I was like back in my happy place of just like bottomless powder and just like it like so I do. I still get to ride. I don't ride half pipes. I don't do jumps. I don't do the rails, all that crazy stuff. But like riding powder is like my ultimate happy place now. And like, I mean, I get to go up in helicopters. There's nothing. I don't know. It's like it's cool.
I'm gonna cut you guys off. What a great place, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me.
You're
I know it's
quite
been a little bit of a
welcome.
journey to get here. Mark, you had some technology challenges to overcome. We appreciate you. JJ did the work. Kevin, you're wiping butts. Thank you. So that I appreciate you both. They're such an important. I love these conversations. What I love about this show is, our regulars know, I just love talking to cool people. It's why I actually do it. So, you guys are cool people. We're gonna have you back again. I can't wait. Let us know when the documentary comes out and everything, Kevin. I'm thrilled for
All right. Well, I thought we
you.
were going to be talking for a while here. I didn't talk about the feature film that we're
All
making.
right, go ahead. I'm gonna let you go. I'll do that.
All right, go ahead. Give me
All right, we
1
gotta
minute.
plug our shit here. So go.
So we're working on this feature film, which will be
Okay.
like epic because it's going to be with features you can make believe. So we can turn this into something that's like the most. It already is like I don't know. I'm like pretty proud of my story. Like I think it's pretty cool that I've been able to go through that, and now I'm here. And there's an HBO documentary about me, but it ends like 10 years ago. In the last 10 years, I've had 3 kids. Like I have a house in Florida. We just bought the house
You
next
know it
door to
causes
us.
that, right? No, I'm
So we have this little house that I'm sitting in now, a little 3-bedroom house, and then we bought the house next door to us, and we're remodeling that into a 4-bedroom house. So like we have these 2 houses next to each other. I have an infinity pool out back. We have like one of the most consistent surf waves on the East Coast, 2 blocks from my house. Like golf carts are legal on the road. I could go all day, guys, but
All
it's
right.
happening.
Well, this just you're screwed. You got to come back. That's how they're going to do. I have to have you guys back. That's all it
You
is.
didn't give
So,
me enough. You didn't give me enough time, bro. So I'm out.
dude, I sent you an email. You didn't get the email. It's not on me. Check your mail, bro.
Good time. You are great, and thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. Have a great day. Enjoy.
Yeah,
You too.
boys.
We'll talk to you soon.
Bye bye.
Bye now. Oh God, I love this job. I love this job, and I love you guys being here for it. That's why we do the Sunday show, y'all. It doesn't have, look, it's we can get wrapped up in what's going on in the world, but man, it's so cool having folks like Kevin and Mark and reset and make clear where we stand. Look, the thing is, the way we're going to survive this crazy time in our country is stay grounded, y'all. Keep your feet there. Remember what matters. I've been hiking again. I've gotten 11 miles in the last 3 days because it finally got warm in Missouri. And I recommend that highly. So people like Mark and Kevin are really cool. I got another inspiring guy that joining us, our next guest. Again, I get the coolest people to come on the show, and I'm very welcome. I'm very fortunate to call people like this friend. If I'm sure you know Harry Dunn. He's an author, political candidate, and of course you know him as the former Capitol Police officer who served the United States Capitol Police from 2008 to 2023. He's since written a best-selling book. He's run for Congress. I met Harry 4 years ago, and it was just great hanging around with a guy, my size. JJ, you got my picture of me hanging out with my good friend Harry. Look at that, standing next to each other, this the same size, and it's just head to head with Harry Dunn. He's a big guy, but so am I. When standing on the curb, So, as you can see, that's how I stand next to a guy like Harry Dunn. Let's get Harry on the show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Harry, man, so good to see you. Welcome to On Democracy Sunday, brother.
Man, Fred, good to be with you, my friend. It's been too long. It's been too long.
I was getting ready to say that. It's been way too long, you know. Before you came on, I showed the picture of us hanging out at the Capitol to show people how tall I am.
But standing on the curb, man.
All right, you have to bring up that part. I actually going to cut that out so you don't, so people don't see it. Yeah, no, it's towering.
Nah, man, but no, it's always good to catch up with you, man. I'm happy to be with you, my friend.
Good to see you. You know, what a week. I mean, it's funny. The show always opens every week, Harry. I say, wow, what a crazy week it's been. Of course, it's been a crazy week. We had to stay as well. I guess the joint session of Congress speech, not necessarily State of the Union. I know you live tweeted that. You know, that was his first joint session speech of this term. He was bragging about being his fifth. You've been up there for those. You've worked that, didn't you? What was your kind of vibe? What was your feeling watching on TV this time?
Well, you know, that's his thing. He loves it. He loves when he's the center of attention. He loves just talking. So he relishes in that moment all the time. So, you know, but the substance of the speech was bullshit. You know, clearly, like we knew he was going to lie. We knew he was going to go out there and, you know, fabricate and exaggerate numbers, blame anybody but himself. We knew that he was going to do that, and a lot of people, you know, I told my followers online that I was going to be watching it, and people were like, no, boycott it. Like, I get why people want to boycott it. I get it. Nobody wants to give him a fire any oxygen. That's how you starve a fire, is take away oxygen. But I really think in these times right now, this is different than the last 4 years. We have to be very aware of what he's saying and what he's doing, because of what he's already done. One of my biggest complaints during the election is that people weren't paying attention. Project 2025 is playing out right now, was all over the place before, during the election. And this is what exactly is happening is right out of Project 2025. And now everybody's surprised. And that's why I say we cannot stop paying attention, because that type of shit will happen.
Yeah, it's easy to get lost in it. It's lost. Yeah. Easy in the ridiculousness. You know, the 5-minute rant listing Social Security. You know, people who are too old for Social Security, which we all know is just a coding error, and not the fact that they think people. You know, it's just ridiculous. Of course, who could forget transgender mice?
It's crazy, man.
It's just transgenic. For those who forgot that part, if you haven't seen online. He talked about we were paying to get mice to turn transgender. No, it's transgenic mice. They're used for testing. It's just stupid.
It's really stupid.
But to me, Harry, watching it, I think maybe you and I come from such similar places as we watch this insanity. Which is a sort of a, we served our country, and you're a police officer. I'm a soldier, an extra, and what kind of got me was I was kind of shocked and mostly saddened by the repeated cheering and enthusiasm, right, from the audience and from the Republicans for some really scary shit, right? I mean, like really hateful shit. Really, cutting people, firing them, cutting contracts, not paying for overseas USAID projects that are saving lives.
Yeah.
And these people made punchlines out of them. And were you kind of, it hits, doesn't it?
Well, let's be clear what they're cheering for, and they don't know. They're not cheering for that. Most of the Republicans are not. They are cheering to appease Donald Trump. Everything they do is to appease him. If you notice, Donald Trump was agitated. He was bothered by the fact that no Democrats clapped for anything about him.
Insane.
When he acknowledged it too. He said when he introduced Kennedy, he said, "Oh, with a name like Kennedy, you think the Democrats over here would start clapping for that?" Like, even he was mad that it got under his skin that they weren't clapping. So let's be clear, to your point, Republicans, they are scared of Donald Trump. A lot of them, I've talked to not current members of Congress. There aren't any that I currently talk to, but I have relationships with people who used to be members of Congress, who still talk to members of Congress, and they say behind closed doors and privately, they despise Donald Trump, but they are afraid of the end of their political career. So, yes, on the other hand, yeah, I do think that they think that some of the shit that he's doing is insane, but they are too scared to say it. And that's just a lack of moral courage. and that's where we're at right now. That's why we are where we are right now, because so many people have the lack of moral courage.
Well, there's that article. The New York Times got an article yesterday. I think I sent you a clip of it.
Yeah.
About the fact, this fear factor. They wrote an entire piece about fear, and the fear is going everywhere. They talk about how CEOs of companies are afraid to say anything because they're afraid that Musk or someone will come out of it. They talk about how Democrats are afraid, and Republican members of Congress are afraid. They even had a Republican member of Congress who would not give his name because every time he's mentioned in the news, he gets death threats and threats from MAGA. I mean, it's a scary kind of fascism thing. But you and I, especially you more than me, I'm not going to try and ever claim the kind of shit you put up with. But you've been in this fight since January 2020 or 2021. You face death threats on a regular. It's like Tuesday, right? I mean,
it's Tuesday.
You went to the principal's first conference, and they're
called in a bomb threat on it. They called in a bomb threat on us there. Yeah.
Right. So this is So what do you say to that fear? I mean, I get people are afraid, and I respect that, but at the same token, what are we going to do here? If we don't step up, we're going to lose the whole damn thing, aren't we?
Yeah, man, that fear is real, and some of the people that you mentioned have already bent the knee and caved into Trump. Let's say Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and those guys who. Jeff Bezos going as far as saying the opinion column in the Washington Post can no longer be about the negativity of what's going on. Something like there's something bizarre.
Libertarianism and free market.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's crazy. But let's be clear. As a soldier and me as a police officer, what's the number one goal of terrorists? To create fear and destabilization, and that's what they're trying to do: provoke fear and incite fear, not because they're mad at you. They just want you to shut up. They want you to shut up. And that's their goal. A lot of times, now listen, I'm not minimizing any death threats that we get, you get, I get, that anybody get. I don't minimize them at all because you have to take them serious. But a lot of times, these people,
it takes one person.
All it takes is one. All it takes is one. But a lot of these people are just talking to incite fear in you so you will shut up. And that's the goal of a terrorist. And what's the America's motto or stance with terrorists? We don't negotiate with them. So you know what? Listen, it takes a lot of courage, and I'm not bashing anybody that has succumbed to the fear. This shit's real, man. It's very real. I had a friend of mine reach out to me the other day, and they said, "Harry, all right, seriously, what is the line where it becomes too much, and you say, you know what, I'm going to stop." And I had to think about it for a minute because I was like, man, I'm not stopping. They were like, no, with the threats, with your safety, what is the line where it becomes enough is too much? Enough is enough. And I thought about it. And I said, the line is when I think that what I'm doing isn't the right thing to do. As long as what I'm doing, I believe in and I think it's right, I'll never stop fighting for it. And I think that's what it comes down to. That's what's important. You have to believe in what you're doing at your core is the right thing to do. Listen, there's been so many off-ramps for me since January 6th, where I could have just said, the hell with this. Just, all right, Harry, you did your job. You served your country more in a week than some people have served in their entire life. You can say the same thing, Fred. But why do we keep going? Because it's worth it. So listen, I get the fear. That shit's real. It's scary. I'd be lying to you if I didn't say I don't think about it. I mean, I got cameras around my house. I got firearms. I take necessary precautions to protect myself. I watch my back. I look over my shoulder in public. When I get in my car, I make sure nobody's following. I do that type of stuff, and it's a shitty way to live. It's a shitty way to live, but it's where we are right now.
Yeah, and I think you understand, and that again is why you and I have become friends. Is we both understand, like it or not, for reasons that neither of us planned on, we're in the middle of this now, right? So I think I know you especially understand that. Like it wasn't your plan to be in the middle of that fight. It wasn't your plan to. You even agonized over speaking out afterwards, because many of your peers didn't. Yeah. But you do recognize, well, for whatever reason, here I am, right? And people are looking towards me. They're looking for strength, and so in a moment, you just do what you got to do, right?
Yeah, it's what you have to do. Like I tell people often, we're going to be remembered for what we did or what we didn't do, right. And I'd rather be on the positive side of I did something, even if that something is just standing up for what I believe in. It's right, it's necessary, and you got to do it.
Yeah. And not everybody has that opportunity. It's. And I think that's so.
No, I want to interrupt you. I think everybody does have the opportunity. Maybe not on the scale that you or I have had it, but there's always an opportunity to do something. I'm not encouraging everybody to go out there and run for Congress or, jump in start to be a campaign manager for a candidate. I mean, it's crazy as shit, right? It's crazy, but there's always something that can be done.
Yes.
And find out something that you're passionate about. Whether it is trans rights, whether it is vets rights and vet services, or whether it is gun control and gun safety or women's reproduction, find something. Don't try to do it all. Because it's too much. It'll get overwhelming. Find one thing that you're passionate about the most and lock in on that and focus on that. And I think that's how we win.
I love that. I want to pull that thread. I read your stuff, and I saw you've been traveling the country. I think you were in Kansas recently.
Yeah, I was just about to say, not too far from you.
Not too far from me. Didn't say hi. It's fine. It's not really close. It's the other side of the freaking state. But I do like Kansas City. I need to get over there and get some barbecue. Mayor Q is a friend of mine.
So damn good, man.
Having said that, you're out talking. You're like me. You're traveling the country. You're talking to average Democrats, Kansans especially. That's now a purplish state of all things. Strangely enough, people don't believe me when I tell them that, but. What are you hearing? What do you hear from the ground? I mean, outside the DC bubble, what do you hear?
Well, what's encouraging to a point is that states like that where Kansas, right? You just said purple. Kansas has a 2-term Democratic governor. Governor Kelly. She's very effective.
Still popular.
She's very, very popular, very effective in the work that she does. And I think it's just common sense meeting people where they are, talking to regular. Not even Democrats, regular people, and not just the extremists on one or the other side. Just talk to them and say, hey, what do you think about X, Y, and Z? And you'll realize that they align with common sense principles, which are not happening in this administration right now. And that's the thing. We have to get those type of voters in. Listen, there are people that sat at home. Trump's base isn't going anywhere. Let's be clear. The MAGA base, you're not going to flip them. You're not going to convert them. You want to talk to the average people who don't give a damn about MAGA, who don't give a damn about Dems, who just, how can I survive, me and my family? That's what we want to do. And you explain to them what's happening now and why the policies that are not even being enacted by Donald Trump, because he's not enacting policies, he's taking them all away. He's taking everything away and making people's lives more miserable and making life for him and his millionaire friends beneficial. So I think that's the message, and you need to get out there and tell people exactly, be truthful with them about what's going on.
I love that, and that's exactly what we hear. I had Greg Landsman on my show after the election, talk about. I just go everywhere. I talk to everybody. I go on every show. I've had the opportunity. I talked to Wes Moore last week. I know I'm sure you
love Wes.
Yeah, I love Wes too.
Love Wes.
Our Midas Touch show last week. I've known Wes for years because I used to work in Baltimore eventually. But that is right. We have to start meeting people in the middle. But there's also one of the things I talk about a lot, and I think you have too. I kind of circling back to that fear thing. There is a fear out here. There is a fear among the general population of uncertainty. You see economic anxiety's gone. The economic outlook's plummeted. The jobs numbers that come out this week are unreal, like 245% increase in jobs. And they haven't started firing a lot of the feds yet. So that anxiety, it almost feels like, I always had the elected Dems on this week. We have no elected Dems this week. There's a reason, but that's what we have. But those who ran for office, Harry Dunn. Having said that, do you think they're missing the point? And you do talk to a few Dems on the Hill. You run in those circles in DC. It does feel like sometimes our elected representatives may not be sensing that anxiety or reflecting it in a way that people can detect. Is that
I don't think that's accurate. I think they get it. Okay. I think they do. Okay. But I think the disconnect comes from how do you message it? And I feel like that's what they're doing. Like I love Hakeem Jeffries, but I think that in this moment right now, he's not doing enough. I'm not going as far as some people are saying, oh, he's got to get out of there and do this and that. No, he's very effective. He's very good. But in this moment right now, I think we need something different from him. Not saying let somebody else be the spot. He's proven that he's a capable leader, but this moment is unprecedented right now. And we need to have different strategy. He acknowledges what Donald Trump is doing. Everybody knows nobody's supporting Donald Trump on the Democratic side. But they better not be, at least that I'm aware of right now. But I think they need to get together like yesterday and figure out the messaging on this. I saw that Tim Walz is going to start going to different red states, red districts, messaging to those districts where Republicans won't. Yes, damn right. Good job. More of that. Yep. More of that. Shout out to Tim Walz, man.
Yeah, I love that he's getting. I love that he's wading back into the fight.
Yeah,
you know, and that's the. It is an all hands on deck moment, and those decks are like hands like yours too. So I know we're getting close to our time. I know you got places to be, so I'm not going to keep you. Most important thing I ask every week, and you got a lot going on right now. Can you tell us where the folks to find you? Tell them about your book.
Well, I got a book, the New York Times. Yeah, like you said, thank you, man. Standing my ground. Capitol Police's fight for accountability, and in good trouble after January 6th. But also, I started a PAC, Harry Dunn's Democracy Defenders, and I get out there on the road, and it helps me support candidates that believe in democracy, not just believe in it, that actually stalwarts for it and stand up and fight for it. My Substack, follow me there. My PAC is called Harry Dunn's Democracy Defenders. Yeah, I think I said that. Yeah.
We'll throw it on screen.
My Substack, Thank you so much, man.
Yeah. No, we're thrilled. I'm just glad to see you working out there. It's great. I follow your work, and you and I align in so many ways. I'm the same way. We're going to have to get out here and defend democracy, and because that's where we're at.
Let's do it together, brother.
I love it. That's what we're here for, brother. Yeah. I'm going to let you go, Harry, man. Thank you so much, brother.
Fred, love you, brother. Enjoy your Sunday, man.
You too, brother. Talk to you soon.
Later.
I just love hanging out with Harry. He's as good a guy as you think he is. I'll be honest, it's one of the wonderful things about the opportunities I've been given in the last 5 years, especially, and even 10 years before that when I was a veteran advocate, is the opportunity to meet and interact with folks that truly inspire me. Our panel today was one of the most inspiring, just great people, and then of course Billy Ray, who is a genius, and his writing is fantastic. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Harry. We're running close to that timeout. As you guys can see, we can disagree and find a way. We all agree it's time to fight. It's time to fight back against this. Maybe the tactics and strategies may be different, but the fact is we need to keep pushing back and getting ready to vote these guys out and show our displeasure. It's obvious the pressure is working, okay? You saw the news stories at the beginning. Elon is getting on people's nerves. His rockets keep blowing up. Tesla's sales have plummeted. Stock is falling. There are pressure points for these people, and we can do that without violence, okay? And I know a lot of people talk about violence. I lived in a country. I lived in Iraq 3 times. I was stationed in Iraq 3 times during the war. I don't necessarily want to live in a country awash with violence where our solution is violence. I just don't. I know I don't know what the future holds for us, but while we've got the power of our vote, the power of our public pressure, the power of showing up, then that's what we need to be doing here in America, because that's the rights we have in our Constitution, and we're not forgetting that here. We know what our rights are, and we're going to execute them. So keep pushing your congressmen, your senators, I don't care what party they are, keep pushing them to fight for you, keep showing up. I'll be in St. Louis, the VA, this Friday. There's a rally going to be at the Cochrane Hospital in St. Louis on Friday. I'll be there myself as a veteran, representing veterans, my fellow veterans, pushing back against the outrageous cuts they're talking about doing the VA. And let's talk about that. And I'll go back to what I talked about Billy. I do feel that we spend way too much time appeasing the Republican talking points, right? None of this is about efficiency. Don't open the conversation with, obviously our government could use improvement. You know what? No shit. But that's acknowledging or making believe that anything that Trump or Musk are doing is about efficiency. Look, they're not trying to make the government efficient, okay? That's horse shit. The idea that the Department of Veterans Affairs first decided to cut 15% of their workforce to 2019 levels, which is not a coincidence, okay? They're cutting the workforce back to before Biden on purpose, and then announce we're going to do a careful review and study of what VA should look like. Folks, you don't have to be a business person, but if you've spent even a minute in corporate America or business anywhere, you don't say, hey, I want to make things better and right size before you decide how many people to cut. Hey, you know what? You may actually study and find out you need more people. But that's not what they're doing. None of this has a damn thing to do with efficiency. So don't acknowledge it. Look, this isn't about efficiency in any way. This is about destroying our government. It's a 3-step. It's what they've been doing to our education system, you guys, for 20 years. First, you attack it, okay? You defund it, okay? And then when it fails, you say, well, see, it's not working. That's what they're doing at VA. They're going to attack it, saying it hasn't been efficient, which is a lie. The numbers don't show that. The VA is one of the most popular health systems in America. Patients love 81% approval for patients in the VA. Good luck finding that at your local hospital. But having said that, they attack it first, then they unfund it, they fire 83,000 people, and then when it starts really failing, when veterans start dying, when veterans homelessness goes up, when veterans suicide goes up, they're going to say, see, we tried to fix the VA and save it, but it's unfixable. And so we're just going to have to destroy it. That's the steps, you guys. We're in step 2 of this process. Attack it, destroy it, say how it's not working, get rid of it. Okay? We have the power to call that bullshit out. Don't let them pull it. Don't let that jackass Doug Collins put out his stupid videos and say, well, y'all, we're going to make it more efficient. It's fucking horseshit. Okay? They're not efficient as anything. All they're doing is cutting it down and destroying it because they can. I ain't having it, and y'all ain't having it. That's why you're here. That's why you're great Americans. That's what we're gonna call we're calling you guys from now on the great Americans. Great Americans. Great. I always call everybody great Americans. It was annoying when I was in the Army. My soldiers hated it, but you guys are getting stuck with it. So thanks for being great Americans and being here and fighting for what is right and what we're gonna do to save this country, because we're not putting up with this bullshit, folks. We are not putting up with it. All right. So with that, I'm gonna let you go back to your Sunday, recover from having to get up, losing an hour of sleep. I know I'm tired. I got plans. I'm gonna sleep. I really enjoy having you here. As always, our Substack blowing up, y'all. I don't know what's going on. I am so thrilled to have so many of you joining our Substack, fpwellman.substack.com. We got really good numbers. This is our best turnout ever for the show. Thank you for joining us. Please tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your like-minded friends to join the show every week. This is the best Sunday show in America. Screw that stuff on CNN and ABC and CBS. This is where you should be, especially Fox News. Come here to the On Democracy channel and spend your Sunday with us talking about what matters in America, and not just politics, but important things like people who survived traumatic brain injuries and others. This is the place for that every week. We got a lot more of that coming. The best place to find us is right there in that YouTube channel, On Democracy channel, at On Democracy channel. Hit that thing right now. I appreciate all you guys in the comments. I love seeing you. I love seeing our regulars. I love seeing new faces. It's so good to have you here. Find me on Blue Sky at FPWellman, well, everywhere. So with that, have a great Sunday. I can't wait to see you next week. Look for more content this week. Thanks.